Headboard.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm Stevie Collier, and I know you've been waiting a long time to get in bed with me. That's why you're here, because we're in my bed together, me and you. And I'm here with Andy Peliquin, and we are honored to have the amazing Amanda Hester. Wait.
You did it. You didn't even butcher it.
Yeah, that was it. All right, Amanda Hester. And we're going to be talking about perception today, and she is the author of Darker Days, which is book one or volume one in The Storms Within. And Amanda, to get to that book, can we look up Amanda Hester and will it come up? Book one or volume one in The Storms Within.
You'll look it up under.
And Amanda, to get to that book, can we look up Amanda Hester?
Why am I
will it come up?
glitching?
Book one or volume one in The Storms Within.
You'll look it up. I think
Weird.
Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah. I think that's some echo
That was
on
weird.
Amanda's. Is that on your side of things, Amanda?
It's me.
Okay. Well, you fixed it. Well done.
Yeah, so welcome to the Fantasy Fiends podcast, Amanda.
Your side of things, Amanda?
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you fixed it. Well done.
Okay, I was.
What is going on?
I don't know. It's a thing that sometimes happens. I'm not 100% certain why it's doing that.
Yeah, Amanda, because now you're
That sometimes happen. I'm not 100% certain. Stevie, why don't you talk, ramble on for a bit while I help her behind the scenes.
On. No, so I'm actually in California and staying with my mom in this freaking amazing apartment. And today I will be working on, really good news. I do have the brand new cover finished for Jigsaw, The Bizarre Blades, book one. Very excited about that. And
Show
it
us,
is.
Stevie. We want to see it. Don't tease us like that.
I know. I don't know if I can do screen sharing though.
Well, Stevie, you should have figured that out before the podcast.
I know. You know what? I could actually send it to you, and then you could put it up on your email.
To be fair, I don't know how to screencast either.
Oh my god! So, Andy? What's something cool that's been happening with you?
I mean, aside from an awesome podcast on Tuesday talking with RJ Barker, and then last night doing a live reading of Kings of the Wild in the Fantasy Focus podcast. Actually, there's a giveaway running right now. If you want to go and check it out on the Fantasy Focus Facebook group. And then I did an interview for the Fantasy Focus podcast, which will go live in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, here. And it's been a crazy week of editing. But by tomorrow, the second book in the Silent Champion series, fingers crossed, will be done at over 200,000 words. It's crazy big, crazy awesome. It's got 4 or 5 huge battle scenes, all kinds of character stuff. It's amazing.
It's about damn time you finished that book.
I know it's been six weeks.
Wow. Wait, 6 weeks though. That's not a very long time.
Well, for me it is. I wrote the whole Heirs of Destiny series in about a month each, so.
Jesus, man, that's insane. Yeah, and I just did a podcast with Joe Compton. I don't even know is it the Go Indie Now show? Because he has a couple different things.
He's got a lot of different shows, which is cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And so the whole podcast was about Andy's books. So if you haven't read any of Andy's books, you should go check that out. And we all discuss why the world build. We get into world building. We talk about the Hunter, and then Heirs of Destiny got brought up, and you get to learn a little bit more about Andy that he probably didn't want any of us to share.
Oh, Stevie's spilling all my secrets.
All your dirty secrets. Hello, testing.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm a little out of breath because I had to run downstairs, and I'm actually old, so...
Are you? No, wait, hold on. Oh, I was like, what happened to your ears?
I had to go get my headphones.
Wait, those are headphones?
Yes. Oh, they're earbuds, but yes.
Those are the most fantastical headphones I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Those are awesome. Wait, you said you're old? You don't look old.
Oh, I am old. I'm a grandma.
I'll say, are you really?
Yes.
Wow, that's shocking. I would never have thought that.
Yes, I have a grandson. He's adorable. He's almost 2 months old.
Well, congratulations. He's fresh.
He is.
That's one fresh baby. And so Darker Days, is that your first book?
Yes, that is actually the only thing I have out finished so far because I've been working on building our right side. So Darker Days is a collection of short stories, and that's where I do my dark fiction. So it's all dark fiction.
Okay, awesome. So what got you into writing?
That is a really hard question to answer because I have been writing for as long as I can remember. I was writing in elementary school. I've always been in young authors clubs and things like that. I was a reader to escape, and writing was therapeutic. So,
What made you finally pull the plug and become an author?
it was it's been about 8 or 9 years that I started a mommy blog, and I was writing about special needs parenting, and that got me back into the flow of writing because I hadn't written in years. And then through that circle of writing friends, I came across some fiction writing prompts and a group called the Red Dress Club. So I started answering writing prompts and doing more fiction writing. And I just gradually started focusing more on that. My daughter got older. I was less comfortable writing about the parenting side of things with her because there's a point in parenting where the narrative changes from yours to your child's. And I didn't feel comfortable to continue sharing her stories that way. So I just transitioned into fiction and fantasy writing, and it just snowballed from there.
Wow, so a mommy blogger, and you don't do mommy blogging anymore.
I don't. I do parenting articles on my personal author website, and I do reshare some of the stories that I shared back then, but now I filtered them through my daughter before I reshared them to make sure that she was comfortable with them being out there. But yeah, once she got old enough, I just didn't feel comfortable telling her stories.
I got you. And something we learned before the podcast, and Amanda, tell me if you don't want to talk about this, but that of you being a witch.
I am a eclectic solitary witch.
Okay, why don't you, if Andy, do we have time to get into that a little bit? Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's fascinating.
It's basically just I say eclectic because I don't adhere to any one particular belief system. Like I wouldn't even go so far as to call myself Wiccan because I don't follow the Wiccan system. I like to learn and take what appeals to me. Mm-hmm. Meditation, yoga, learning about chakras, tarot reading, crystals, spell casting. I do spell casting. For me, if you don't know anything about it and you just have like your perception of magic and mm-hmm. you think of witchcraft and you think of magic, and for me personally, it's not like that. Spellcasting it's ritual, is what it is. It's a way of prayer. It's a way of focusing your conscious, and it's elaborate ritual. And that's how I use it, and that's how it appeals to me.
Could you give us an example of a spell that you would cast?
For example, I often do good fortune, things like that for my household. I actually have a book of shadows that's downstairs. So I usually handwrite, just, everything rhymes because it's more fun that way. And I follow some basic creeds using green and white candles and things like that. And I just set it up and I run through whatever chant I write out. And again, it's not that I'm expecting it to make magic. It's that I'm putting my intention out into the world. I'm manifesting. Prayer, manifestation. They're all labels for the same things that we all do.
That was exactly the question that I wanted to ask, because Stevie's very big on that law of attraction, manifesting kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Me, I don't knock that, but I don't necessarily believe it. I feel like, you're going to do what you're going to do. The whole positive, what you put out there is true. You're a positive person. You'll have a positive outlook, and hopefully positive things will happen to you. But I was thinking about that because, it's like prayer as a religious concept. I was raised in a Christian household, and the idea of prayer actually causing a specific effect. Now that I'm older, it feels a little bit of a stretch. We were actually talking about this, Stevie and I don't know if it was the podcast or a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Oh, I was focusing on this. I was manifesting this, and something happened." And for me, it was like, well, no, it had already happened, but you didn't realize it until afterward. And so that was my question: is that how it works? It's not like you actually make things happen, but it's putting it out there and sort of finding the connections to things that actually exist.
It is, and what I've studied and the way that I understand with manifesting is you are training and setting your subconscious that is going to put steps in place for you. So these things aren't just going to magically happen, but now I've put my mind on this track that I want this fortune to happen, and therefore I am subconsciously focusing myself to perform better at work, to apply for this position, to get this raise, things like that. And it's just a way to train yourself, and it's a way to focus yourself.
I really like that. Training your subconscious to look for those connections and to look for the opportunities to make things happen. Because, you could call that manifestation, you could call it prayer, you can call it spells, but it's all the same thing. And I'd say that's super powerful. When you teach your mind to look for these things or to take steps consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, that's when those things happen, as opposed to just sitting there. Like one of the huge issues that I had with the concept of prayer as an older person is that it's, Jesus, God, whatever it is, make this happen, and then sit there and do nothing to make it happen. That for me is bullshit. People who pray and then go out and make it happen, or they manifest, or they cast a spell, or whatever, that for me feels a lot more real. So I like the way that you put it, training your subconscious to recognize and take steps.
Yes, and I would call this inspired action, and that we get these inspired actions after training our subconscious to look for these open doors. And you can't just put an intention out there and expect for it to come into your life with you just laying in bed. So
Amanda, let me ask you this: as an author, when you're writing a story, do you ever find that your brain makes these connections without you realizing it, like something that you had put in at the beginning all of a sudden comes to pass later in the book, or things like that?
No, yes. So I was in the book that I'm working on now, the Soul Purge, the first book in my Chthonian Guardian trilogy. I have a character, and I won't say very carefully crafted her, because she came very naturally and she fit right into the story. And then further down the line, I realized that there was a subplot that was developing, that there was actually an entire race of Fae in this world. I had no intention of putting Fae in this world. It wasn't part of my original outline. So I was like, okay, so I need to go back and I need to look at this character and see what changes I need to make to her so that she's believable as a Fae. And as I'm going back through her character outline, nothing. There was not a single thing to change.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I would say that the closest that it gets to that is in the Heirs of Destiny series that I'm releasing now. The last book, there's this moment that I got to the story and I was just had this light bulb moment where I was just, holy shit. I just figured out how to solve the Hero of Darkness problem. No intention otherwise. I'd approached the series as a standalone. It was just sort of a one-off. And then all of a sudden by the end of the series, because of all the steps that I'd taken throughout, I found myself solving a problem. And I'd say that's the perfect example of what you're talking about, of manifestation, prayer, spells, these things coming to pass. Throughout the series, throughout 5 books, I took all of these little tiny steps so that at the end, when it came time to write that, oh, here's the answer, I was in the right place. And so by training your mind through these actions, be it meditation, manifestation, prayer, spells, you can get yourself in the right place or the right headspace or whatever to have these things come to pass. That for me is a very interesting concept.
It really is. And to take this a step further, I'm either going to embarrass myself or this is going to be really cool. Stevie.
Yes.
Were you on an episode of Writer Imperfect recently with Lillian Oak?
Yeah, the Law of Attraction one.
Okay. I did not know that you were Andy's co-host in the show. And I remember I watched that one, and I remember thinking that you would be fun to talk to.
Oh.
And I think I even looked for you on Facebook, but I didn't find you, or I don't know if I did send you a friend request. So now I feel like this all just came full circle because, like I said, I didn't realize you were the co-host on the show.
Crazy. Yeah. So I think I think I was the one that said, "Oh, Joshua, we should have a law of attraction episode," because I use it a lot with my writing, and I feel like that's how I was able to become such a successful writer so quickly and become a millionaire for my books. And,
see, Andy, I manifested this entire episode.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
definitely.
And it had nothing to do with the fact that someone reached out to me from, it might have been Heidi, and she said, "Oh, we've got some awesome fantasy authors for our right side. Can you put them on?" It happened that it was in the right place, right time, serendipity, magic, miracles, whatever you want to call it. I like
serendipity. Yeah. So I did okay on that podcast, though?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt I was just trying to keep myself from talking too much, which I try and do in every episode of the Fantasy Fiends as well. So,
actually, the other day, my wife asked me, she's like, "Does anyone else ever get to say anything, or do you talk the most?" I was like, "No, Stevie talks most of the time. I just sit and listen."
Oh, wow. So at home, you're the talker, Andy.
Oh, no, she just hears one side of the conversation.
Oh, okay. I got you. So, you know what? Did we really do our cool thing that happened to us this week?
We started it.
Okay, but you got to say yours then.
Yes.
Okay, so Amanda, every week, I don't know if you've seen the Fantasy Fiends podcast episode before, but we usually talk about something cool that's happened to us recently at the beginning of every podcast. So, and we should have warned you because I think we talked for 15 minutes before this episode. But anyway, I did get a brand new cover for book 1. It is complete, and I just sent it off to the typographist today. So super excited about that. And I am halfway through re-editing book 2 in the series, which I got back from my editor. And yeah, I'm going to start on book 4 soon. Awesome. That's my good news.
Very cool. Amanda, what's something cool that happened to you in the last week? 2 weeks, 3 weeks is fine.
I would say I started diving back into Soul Purge in my dev edits. So I'm about, I would say, 60% through my dev edits. So I'm excited about that because, like I said, I've been dragging my feet doing other work, and I really want to get this done. I am hoping to be able to have it go out this summer.
Okay, awesome. Andy, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. So today we have a very interesting podcast topic, and that is perception. And why did we get on this topic of perception? Did it have anything to do with being a witch? Or
no, actually, it started with reading some romance novels for me, and it really just my train of thought. I have ADHD, so my train of thought is more like. I don't know. I can't think of something.
Everywhere? No.
Yeah. I was trying to think of an example of trains that are all spread out and multiplying. But I have always, I love fantasy and I love horror. Those are my favorite genres. But I always have a soft spot for romance. But not bodice rippers. I like those, but really, really pull your heartstrings types romance, like Nicholas Sparks books. And
Nicholas Sparks. My mom loves Nicholas Sparks.
So I used to read them to experience that vicariously, those emotions and all those things or whatever. And the relationship that I'm in now is the best one I've ever been in. And I recently read one of his books, and previously the experience was always the same for me, that vicarious feeling, that kind of oh, that's nice. Oh, that's sad. I've never had that. I won't, whatever. So my life situation changed, my perception changed, and my experience of this writer was different. His writing hasn't changed. His style, that type of romance, it's the same as it always has been. But the way that I felt reading the book and my perception of the characters, the way I related, it was completely different than it had ever been before.
That's weird because Andy loves romance books and Nicholas Sparks is his favorite author.
That's definitely the case. Yes. Totally real. No, you know what I was going to say, Amanda? The probably the best example of that you gave is, for me, in my case, was The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, the final book in the Chronicles of Narnia. I have read that series way too many times to count. It was the only fantasy book that I had when I was growing up, so I devoured it. I know it inside and out. Right? I read the series so many times. And then there was one time that I read it, I don't remember if it was the last time or a previous time or somewhere in there, where I got this little tiny nugget of truth, deep, philosophical, life-changing truth that stuck with me. And I never, I hadn't realized it before then, and I don't think I found anything else afterward. But it was just that one reading that I was in the perfect headspace to glean that little nugget. And so every story, whether it's a movie, a TV show, or books. I can't believe I forgot the word books. It's been a long day. My wife and I, we watch a lot of TV with our kids. And so we watch the shows first together. She goes to sleep. I watch the TV shows. And then when we watch them with our kids, it's like seeing them again for the first time, which is a really weird experience, because when I'm in a different mood, when I'm not trying to go to sleep, or when I'm having a bad day, or like I notice different aspects of the story, different parts of the story stand out to me, or I feel it in a different way. And so my perception has changed. So my experience has changed as well. And then my experiences also shape my perception of things, because I've had a shitty day. I focus on one aspect of the story. I've had an awesome day. I focus on another aspect of the exact same story. So it's such an interesting sort of push and pull between these two things, where they both influence each other to equal degrees. And it's an amazing way to sort of think about how we look at life and the people in our lives and the experiences that we have.
Yes. And then when you flip that over as a writer, it's looking at how can we craft characters and build worlds that are comprehensible, but also layered and complex, so that a reader could come back over and over and have a different experience based on, how their perceptions change.
Definitely. Is that something you do consciously, or is it sort of a subconscious, unconscious thing?
It's something that now that I'm aware of it, that I want to work on more. Like, I always feel like I do have well-rounded characters, but I never really thought about it this way. I'd never really thought about having a reader read my book more than once and how it would change for them. So I do want to make sure that I am writing with layers that don't overcomplicate a story, but really do give a reader something to come back for.
I think what's cool about perception when it comes to books is reading a book when you're younger and then reading it again when you're older. That's always been a cool experience, because as a younger kid, I read adult books. And so now as an adult, reading them again, it's been a different experience. And the one that comes to mind is Cujo by Stephen King. I remember being a kid and being depressed reading that crap until my mom took them away. And then, as an adult, I'm like, okay, it's not so bad, but still. So
you were a kid reading Stephen King. How old?
I would say 11.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
My very first Stephen King book was the summer between 5th and 6th grade, because I was grounded for the summer, and I read The Stand, and it was the second edition unabridged, not the first one. So yeah.
Wow. What a book, man. It's a huge book for 5th to 6th grade.
Yep. And I don't think I went back to kids' books after that. And of course, I grew up and now I like YA, so,
Yeah. Oh, you read YA now?
I read everything.
Yeah.
You saw my bookshelves. I read everything.
Yeah, she has like 6 bookshelves in her living room. It's insane.
That's amazing. My bookshelf is so small. It's got Stevie's books, my books, Brandon Sanderson, and Scott Lynch, and that's it.
Yeah. I've got all those. I've got then my Kindle and then my Audible account. Because at work, I can listen to audiobooks.
That's nice.
40 to 60 hours a week, I'm consuming books through my ears, because I don't care if people don't think it's really reading. I'm still getting more stories in than anybody else. So.
Oh, that's absolutely the case. I would have to say that more than half of the books that I've read over the years have been audiobooks, because I would spend up to 6 hours in traffic when I was teaching English in Mexico City. So I would just listen to books, and I would love the time I spent in traffic. I would actually be disappointed to get where I needed to go, because the story would be getting good.
Yep, that's how I am.
Yeah.
I don't mind my job. I mean, I like my job anyways. I work in an industrial printing press, so it's already a fun job, but I get to listen to books while I'm there too. So
wait, like a printing press for like newspapers or books?
Well, they do mostly like stationery, labels, tags, things like that.
I was going to say, just sneak your books into one of those printers and just have it go all over the place. So something about perception that whenever I learned that we were doing that today is Andy, you do a really good job at this, and we talked about this in the podcast that I did before this podcast, and that is the reader's perception from the villain's point of view. And you're the one who taught me that, to have the reader sympathize with the villain, and that just makes them even better.
Yeah, that perception of the or instead of phrasing it like that, I'd like to say the villain's perception of reality is similar to and yet different from the main characters, and so that perception is all that separates them from the good. That all that separates the good guy from the bad guy, essentially.
Isn't it that they both want the same thing, right? And then
or similar things, or in many cases, like depending on the antagonist of the villain, you've got the mirror, which is basically the kind of person who is exactly the same in every way except one critical way, or a few critical ways, where they are the opposite side of the coin, sort of like Drizzt Do'Urden and Artemis Entreri. That's probably the most classic one, where they're both badass swordsmen, they're both relentless, they've got so many of the same character traits, but Drizzt is focused on the good side of things, and Artemis Entreri just wants to be the best, so he's focused on Drizzt. And so it's this push and pull between these two characters. They are mirrors in so many different aspects, and it creates such an interesting story to read, because you've got these people who it's just one small shift in their dynamic or their perception of reality, and it totally changes who they are to the core of their being, or their actions that affect the story, and they end up going on these two massively divergent paths.
Something else we were talking about before the podcast, I believe, and I don't think we were getting into it, but it was it's back to the witch thing and people's perceptions of witches before they actually learn about it. And so, Amanda, I guess my question is, do you tell a lot of people, like your friends and stuff, that you're a witch and that you study that kind of stuff?
Oh, I've been out of the broom closet for years.
That's a thing, the broom closet?
Yes, I am not a secret witch. I actually, if you go to my public Facebook profile, it literally tells you right in my bio that I'm a witch.
So have you ever felt any hate from that?
I literally have not. The community that I lived here in Ohio. I just moved to another town, and I haven't really got out much here because, like I said, I've been working 40 to 60 hours a week. But we actually have a very large metaphysical alternative community. It's a very accepting town. They actually had their first Pride event last year, and it went over very well. Just a very open and loving town. The local coffee shop is Triple Moon Coffee. I volunteered. We had a metaphysical shop in the downtown area that I worked at for I would say a good chunk of last year.
Yeah, I'm wondering how it would be if you moved to Texas, because I feel like it would be a much more closed-minded perception of
not in
witches.
Austin.
not in Austin, but the rural areas that I've been to, and really Austin
the
is
Bible Belt.
Bible Belt. Yeah, I just it's
yeah. See, I like I said, you see, I'm not. I mean, I don't do like the gothic look or anything like that because I have anything about it. It's just not,
you
this
literally
is,
have
I am
a
what
bow
I am.
in your hair.
I really, it's actually flowers, but
and a
flowers,
unicorn behind you,
and a unicorn. Yeah, not
yeah,
not your typical witch.
I don't tend to rub too many people the wrong way, so I'm not in your face about anything that I believe, because at the end of the day, it's my faith and it's not really anybody else's business. I'm not secretive about it, but I'm not recruiting people. I'm not preaching it. It's, I love you all, but your souls are none of my business. Yeah, like I'm really, it's just mine that I'm working with here.
If they ever give you any crap, just go, witch, please.
I have that on wine glass.
Bad fun, Stevie. Stevie.
Get your spray bottle. Witch, please. I'm going to think of another one. Sandwich. Okay, I can't think of any. No, anyway, yeah, Andy, stop taking it off the rails. So what else is there to talk about perception?
Well, we can go on and on ad nauseum, but why don't we just go right into the reading where we can see a little bit of what she's talking about?
No, I'm all right.
Wait, I do have one more thing on perception, though, before you do that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
please.
do it.
It would be, for me, the perception between a writer's work and then other creatives who get their hands on it. So we're going to talk about how movies make us angry for just a second. And that perception of how, as a writer, a writer has a certain vision. As a reader, when you read a book, you perceive it a certain way, and then maybe you sit down with your boyfriend and he watches Dune with you for the first time, and you want to throw stuff at the TV. So
that reminds me of R.J. Barker. He said in our podcast with him the other day that he can't listen to the audiobook because he already has this idea of the voices, and that he was too afraid that the voices would mess with his.
The voices are fantastic in the audiobook. The Baron sounds like what's his name from 300? Xerxes? I'm so bad with him. Yes, that is what the voice of the Baron in the audiobook of Dune sounds like. No, the voices were great in the audiobook. They really were.
Okay, yeah,
but it's interesting. It's interesting how when he said that, it was clear that he was very attached to the way that the characters spoke to him in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of, they were sort of that, those voices, those specific accents, those specific intonations, the cadence of their things, the word choices, they are what influenced his way of putting them on the page. And so by not having them changed by listening to the audiobook, to have someone else's perception on it, it sort of kept it true to the story. Now, I'm not going to say that that's right. I think that hearing someone else's perception of your stories, like you were saying, the interpretation of it could actually be really interesting. To get a deeper, to get another perspective at it. Like, a lot of people have told me that when they read Darkblade Assassin, there were a lot of these really deep themes that stood out to them, and a lot of that was unconscious or subconscious that I put in. So when I got that, I sort of, when they told me that, I leaned into it and made it much bigger, because that for me was actually the reason that I had written it originally. It just wasn't something that I understood. So my perception was different. Getting these other people's perspectives on it changed my approach to the story, and I would say it made it so much better.
Yeah. Well, cool. So do you guys want to hit up the reading?
Let's do it.
Okay, because my face will disappear because I'm on my phone since I'm in California. Okay.
Was it still daytime there?
It is slightly. It's like dusk. Wait. Let's see. Yeah, but it's super clear. You can see the mountains very nicely from my mom's apartment. It's so beautiful. I love California. Internet here is not good, so that's why I'm on my phone. Okay, so Amanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're reading today?
So this is a scene from Soul Purge, which is the first book in my Chthonian Guardian trilogy. And this particular scene happens right after Emilia's family's village was raided, and her father was killed, and most of the young girls were captured and brought to a nearby castle.
Okay. Is she in the castle too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And who are the characters?
The main characters of this scene right here are Emilia and Kitty. There's a handful of side characters, but these are main characters out of the series.
All right. I'm totally reading one of the voices because I get to pull out my Scottish accent today.
Which one's that?
I don't know. They're both Scottish-ish, right?
Yes.
Well, I will do whichever one. Kitty. I'll do Kitty.
Do Kitty. Okay. And
why don't you do the narrator, Stevie?
Okay, sure. And Amanda, do you want to do Emilia?
Emilia? Sure.
Emilia.
I've never actually read my work out loud.
Don't worry.
Is that okay?
You're going to be way better than us. So.
Yeah. And Andy, do you want to do all the side characters?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hold on. Let me get a drink of water. Okay, you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. You sound scared, Amanda. It's so scary. Okay. All right. When Emilia came to, she found herself atop a bed much larger than her box bed at home. She took a tentative look around. Embers smoldered in the fireplace, a wash basin across the room, and a beautiful tapestry on one stone wall. It bore a crest she knew all too well. Her heart pounded with realization. The crest was a deep shade of blue, adorned with gold trim, a fist bearing a single dagger flanked by emerald dragons set in its center. She stifled a sob as the memories crept in. She needed to escape, but discovered her door was locked and the window was much too high to jump out of, though she gave it serious consideration. Defeated, she washed her face and arms before settling back on the bed. Her head ached. She closed her eyes against the pain and slipped back into a restless sleep. The dream returned. Flashes of green, hooves of some animal, fangs and blood. So much blood. She awoke hours later, still tired and achy, to a frightened bird chirping in her ear. No, not a bird. A girl.
Lass, come on now. You've got to be seen by the chief. Come now. He's not a patient one. Up you go.
She pulled up Emilia's arm. Her tiny hands bellied her true strength. It was apparent, though small, this girl was a hard worker. Emilia eyed the young girl. Was she not considered a threat then? Why else would they send this wisp of a child to fetch her? Surely they didn't expect her to be frightened by that shock of fiery red hair. The girl's green eyes were as big as saucers, and while her voice was agitated, her eyes were full of kindness.
My name's Kitty. What are you called?
She really did not resemble a bird, the way she tipped her head, her curiosity as evident as the sprinkle of freckles across her nose.
Emilia.
Why, that's a pretty name, and fitting too. I've never seen a lass as lovely as you.
Kitty brushed through Emilia's hair and braided it loosely as she washed her own face again.
That'll have to do. Won't make a difference, though. You'll make your own choice. The others have.
Kitty muttered, distracted as she turned to Emilia and pulled a few errant curls out to frame her delicate face. Emilia grasped Kitty's wrist in one hand, putting a stop to the fuss.
Kitty.
She hesitated. Sadness and gratitude swelled into her throat.
Thank you for your kindness.
Kitty pulled her hand free and waved off Emilia's words.
No need to thank me. I'd hoped someone would show me a bit of kindness after going through.
She faltered, not wanting to put words to the loss this young girl suffered and the uncertainty that approached.
Come, our chief's not a patient man.
As Emilia followed Kitty down a long hallway and a flight of stone stairs, she wondered what choice the other girl referred to. As they passed various doorways and halls, Emilia peeked around, looking for any plausible escape routes. Suddenly, a thought occurred to her.
Kitty, why are there no guards?
She tried to sound dismissive, but couldn't mask the fear in her voice. Kitty stopped and turned towards her. She raised one graceful eyebrow.
For you? You're just a wee lass.
She laughed and continued down the stairs, Emilia right on her heels. As they entered the great room, Emilia gasped. There were more beautiful tapestries hung here, some similar to the one in the room, others depicting dragons similar to the ones on her family's box bed. As she looked around, she spotted many, if not all, of the girls and women from her village. They looked tired and frazzled. The room was full but oddly quiet. She couldn't help but wonder where they had been, in a room like hers, or worse. And if they weren't in a room, why was she? They were divided into two groups, each lining an opposite wall. In one group stood her best friend Maggie. Maggie's expression, like most on the wall, was defiant and angry. Her strawberry blonde hair was mussed, and she kept pushing it behind her ears, showing how nervous she really was. On the other wall, in a much smaller group, stood Sarah. Sarah lived near Emilia, but they had never been very close. The second group all hung their heads and refused to meet her eye. Confused, she continued up to the front of the room. At the head of the table sat Aidan Mackay, chief of Donatar. His cloudy green eyes surveyed her from a face nearly covered in curly orange hair. She was uncomfortable under his gaze and attempted to distract herself by figuring out where his hair ended and his beard began.
He's the last death, then.
His voice boomed throughout the room like thunder.
A shame it would be for a face so fine.
Nervous laughter flitted through the tension. Emilia started and realized he spoke to her.
I am giving you a choice.
He leaned forward and cupped her chin. She pulled back, but he gripped her harder.
You must stay here at Dunatar, where you'll be given work to do and be expected to do it. You'll be given a room. You will not cause trouble and will not be lifting your skirts for my men. Or
he looked pointedly at the group of women who glared back at him.
I will turn you out. You'll be free to go.
Emilia stood, stunned. Why had they not just thrown them all in the dungeon? It was nearly an impossible choice to stay by choice and live among the people responsible for her father's death, to cook their food and scrub their floors as she mourned the life they took from her. Or worse, she noticed the way his eyes traveled from her bodice to her toes, or to be turned out, set loose in the wilderness, with no protection, no way to provide for herself. There was little chance they could make it from this castle to any of the neighbors her father spoke of. And she knew what was out there. She shivered at the memory.
I will stay.
She bit out through clenched teeth. Though she spoke quietly, her pain words rang out clear through the room.
You traitorous bitch! Your father's not yet cold in the ground and you give yourself to the enemy. We'll be about burying the lot of them and you'll be warming the bed of this bastard.
Emilia turned, stunned at the vile hatred that laced Maggie's words. She had never spoken to her in such a manner.
Your pa would understand. He would want you to stay safe.
Kitty slipped her hand in Emilia's and gently tugged her towards Sarah and the others.
Those lasses are as good as dead, especially if the Bobbin Sith are about.
What are Bobbin she's?
Fear and curiosity danced in Emilia's eyes.
Hush.
Kitty's eyes darted around them quickly.
Never mind.
Aidan Keith's voice boomed across the great room again.
Tynan, walk that group to the altar gates and set them loose.
The group hissed and cursed the chief and his castle. They fought the guards as they were pushed down the great hall into an unknown fate. Their voices continued to echo off the walls. Anger turned into desperation, and finally, wails of fear.
They made their choice. He'll not let them come back now.
Kitty whispered, still tears in her eyes. She knew the fate that awaited, and her heart broke for them all.
Pride can be a lethal trait.
The chief turned towards Emilia's pitifully small group.
You lasses are to report to Muriel for your orders.
Awesome.
End of scene.
Very
Dramatic.
well written. Yeah.
Great accents. Good job.
Yeah, Andy, man, it's like you're getting better and better at that.
I felt like I was there.
I like Scottish. I don't do it so well, but I like the differentiation between the Highland Scottish and the Lowland Scottish. The Glaswegian.
That was great.
I don't do it with actual Scottish. Come on. I don't know. I've always loved accents, so I practice them, and I watch a lot of TV from around the world, so I just kind of pick it up.
Yeah, I was like forgetting to narrate, so I was just listening. Oh, Andy. Well, that was awesome. And so what book was that from again?
That's from Soul Purge.
Okay, not the Darker Days.
Not the Darker Days. Soul Purge is in progress right now.
Okay, so we don't have that one yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
But now you can be excited for it.
Yes, definitely. And can people find this on your website? Can they join a newsletter or something?
I am setting up a new newsletter now. That was a tongue twister. And everything is always on my website.
Awesome. So that's if people are interested, they could just go there and get updates.
Yep, AmandaLynnHester.com.
Awesome. And you're thinking this summer, right?
That is my hope.
Awesome. Well, anything else we want to talk about perception? It's getting a little dark here in California.
Yeah, it is a little bit dark for you.
Andy?
No, I'm good. I think we talked about everything that we needed to talk about.
Awesome. Well, Amanda, where can people find you?
AmandaLynnHester.com. Everything's there. All my social media links are at the top of my website. And I'm not hard to find. I'm always everywhere.
Awesome. Oh, and I forgot to ask you, when did you become a witch officially?
I officially in 2011.
Oh, so you're not that new.
No,
Okay, I thought you said you were new to it. Okay, wow, 2011.
just
Holy
new to
crap.
different things. Like tarot, I'm just recently learning.
Okay, but you already have 9 decks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're so pretty.
Yeah.
I love them.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, I don't think I have anything else to say, but do keep your eyes open on Facebook because I will be posting the brand new cover soon.
Oh, awesome.
So that'll be exciting. Yes. Yeah, awesome. Well, that's it for this week's Fantasy Fiends podcast. Amanda, it was a pleasure having you on the air.
Thank you. It was fun to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Amanda. Andy, anything else?
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you guys for watching this week's episode of the Fantasy Fiends podcast. We hope you enjoyed your stay, and I hope you found my bed really, really comfortable. And we will see you guys next. Andy, I had to make it weird.
You did make it weird. Mission accomplished, Stevie.
And I didn't say anything about penises.
Until now.
Exactly.
Until now, yeah. But you got to have it in every podcast.
Yes.
All right.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Instead of Thursday, I'm going to be traveling. It's going to be my anniversary with my wife, not my anniversary with Stevie. Very important to differentiate between those two.
I'm jealous.
So we'll be traveling on Thursday. So we're going to do the podcast on Tuesday. Fingers crossed with Josiah Bancroft of Senlin Ascends. He's going to be joining us to talk about some pretty interesting stuff. So see you guys on Tuesday. Senlin Ascends.
Where is that?
It's a book title.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting confused. I was thinking La Seine from France. I was like, what?
No.
He's from the river? Awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being on the air with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. And your writing is really good.
Thank you.
Yeah,